Oh, hello, welcome. This is my Last of Us Part 2 discussion review. It's going to be less structured than my usual reviews I've done in the past. I don't have a script in front of me. I don't have any kind of bulletin board of things. I'm just going to go off the top of my head of the story, the gameplay, what I liked, what I didn't like, and just say some stuff on the game that was cool and just my take on it. Uh, first and foremost, if you have not completed Last of Us Part 2, listen, go finish the game. I'm gonna spoil the entire thing. I will give you about 10 seconds or so. So, timer starts now. Okay, that should be about it. So, Joel dies. Okay, but no. Getting back to the thing, what did I think of Last of Us Part 2 as a whole? Honestly, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game. Were there things in the story maybe I wasn't too thrilled on? Yeah, there were. There were a few things I could see the choices they made. Did it work out as well as maybe they hoped? Maybe not. Maybe the execution. But as a whole, I liked the game from start to finish. I enjoyed my experience with the game. And before I get into everything, I guess I want to give my story kind of leading into Last of Us Part 2 because it's very important. So, December, PSX 2017. I was there in the audience when Last of Us Part 2 was announced. I had no expectations at that time that there was even going to be a sequel to this game. I thought with the way Last of Us Part 1 ended, it was it. It had an open ending. It could lead to other things, but I thought, you know what? If it was a one and done game, I would be fine with that. I absolutely loved Last of Us Part 1. It was my favorite game of the last decade. It was my number one spot game. I've played that game numerous times now, and I think Naughty Dog outdid themselves with that game. It was fantastic. And so when Last of Us Part 2 was announced, I was like, hey, this is gonna be sick. A full-on game now. We have Ellie. Looks like she's aged. Old Joel, which I'm going to talk about that trailer because looking back now, that trailer is very funny. And I didn't have any idea what the plot. Just like, okay, Ellie wants, someone's dead. Someone got Ellie mad. Someone's dying. And that's all the plot I had. And it wasn't until E3 2018 where we finally got to see footage of it. And I know there was a trailer that came a little bit before with the Abby and her getting hanged like that. When that cutscene actually showed up in the game, I was like, oh wait, yeah, I saw that trailer. Like I saw that. Forgot all about it though, which is funny because at PSX 2018, they showed off that they had like the actors for Yara and Lev come out and talk about stuff. I was like, I forgot all about that until I beat the game. I was like, oh yeah, they were there. They were talking about it, but they didn't have any character names either. I think Laura Bailey was there. They didn't have her name. I think they just said Laura Bailey is blank. I have to really remember. That was a bit ago. But E3 2018, they show footage of the game. We see Ellie. We see Dina, who's going to be the love interest for the game. And we see gameplay. We see new additions. We see the prone. We see a revamp of the crafting system and all these different things. Like gameplay-wise, they sold me. Honestly, they sold me on the game when it said Last of Us Part 2. I was like, you know what? I'm buying this game regardless after how much I loved the first game. And after that, I stayed away from everything. So once that E3 demo was shown, I did not see a single trailer. I didn't see a single review on it. I didn't see any of the preview coverage. I did not see a single thing on the game. So when I got the game, I knew absolutely nothing And when I mean that, I mean everything. So when those leaks happened, I managed to avoid every single leak for the 2 months that the game like was leaked and like the big plot stuff was out and about. I somehow managed to avoid all of it. So I had the entire game spoiler free, unspoiled. I knew nothing. And honestly made the experience of the game 10 times better, not knowing in any direction of what. Because apparently the trailers, and I did go back and watch, the trailers definitely have a lot of misdirection. And they set up certain things in the trailer where you kind of have a sense of, okay, Joel is going to be in the game. Like when Ellie is in Seattle and she's running away from the wolves, and then she has that hand over her mouth. And in the trailer, they make it seem like it's Joel. But in the actual game, it's not. So then it's like, wait. Watching that back, it's like, ooh, I can see why people might be surprised, like with Joel's death, because it's like, wait, but he was there at that point, but now he's dead, and all these different things. So when Joel dies, that was like a big surprise. I did not know about any of the leaks. Like I didn't know what it was. I just stayed away, and I'm happy I did because that moment did happen. It was shocking. I was actually like shocked. My mouth was like, I was like, they really killed Joel off in the first 90 minutes of the game. And you know what? It worked because you know what? The game, they really want you to get mad in that game. And it worked because I was like, boy, Abby and her crew got to die. They ain't making it to the end of this game. And you know what? They were right because her crew didn't make it to the end of that game. Abby did, but her crew didn't. That's for sure. And I think that misdirection, because I have been seeing some comments. I looked after I beat the game. I looked up a lot of the comments of what people didn't like, and one thing I made mention is that they didn't like Joel's death. They felt that it was a stab in the back and that Joel should have been in the entire game. But I feel, because I will see something of like subverting expectations and that whole thing. I know at Last Jedi it was said a lot, which that movie, we're not talking about that now. But in terms of subverting expectations, I feel it worked in this case. Because after watching that E3 demo, and having the kind of knowledge that, okay, this is going to be a revenge story with Ellie. She's going to have to go on some kind of thing to kill somebody. And my thought was, okay, they set up the Dina stuff in the E3 2018 demo. My thought was, okay, Dina dies in the first 2 hours of the game. And that's what accelerates the plot and gets it going. So it's her there. And my thinking with that was because, okay, in that first trailer, you see Ellie playing guitar, and you see Joel walk in, and he's kind of questioning her, like, do you want to do this? And she says, I'm going to kill all of them. And my thought taking that footage there is just, okay, Dina dies. But knowing that now, looking back, it's funny because it's like, wow, that trailer is so far removed from the entire game. Like, either they knew early on that Joel was going to die, or at that point, it was just a teaser to say, hey, the game is being made. I don't know what it could be. But you know, it worked because it really lulled me into a sense of Joel's probably going to die at some point in this game, but I didn't think that early on. Like, I knew going in, Joel's going to die. Like, if they want the most emotional reaction and to get players, like, mad or just to get them, like, into that, ooh, like, they're going, it's killing Joel. And I knew it was going to happen, like, at some point. I figured in the middle of the game as, like, an emotional, like, moving into the second to third act. But I didn't expect it was going to accelerate the plot into Act 1. And honestly, it worked really well. Like I said, it got me mad. I was like, I don't know who Abby is, but I hate her guts. Which is very funny when I start talking about, I get more into the story. I think before I move on to the story, let me talk about gameplay, because I feel like it's going to be story the entire time. I'll just say my few words on gameplay and everything else with it. First off, graphically, this game is beautiful. This game looks great. I'm playing it on a standard PS4 1080p TV, and it still looks good. Just the textures are nice and crisp. The models look great. The animation is like Naughty Dog is the king when it comes to that stuff. Like since Uncharted 4, that game, I feel like I paused more than any game my entire life. Like just using photo mode and looking at all the models close up and looking at these like just beautifully crafted environments. And it's like in a different way. In Uncharted 4, you have these really lush, like nicely bright, saturated environments, while Uncharted is more of a desaturated, very contrast and like drab thing, but it still has really cool architecture in the way things are designed. And just the way the grass flows and the way light bleeds in through windows, it's a really good looking game. And technically, Naughty Dog are the top dog, no pun intended, when it comes to that stuff in the industry. Like they know how to take a console and push it to its limits. Like this has been always the same since PS3. Like Uncharted 1 when it first came out, like probably one of the better looking PS3 games, and then of course Metal Gear 4 came out and destroyed it. But then Uncharted 2, like when I first saw that teaser of Uncharted 2, I was blown away. I still remember it to this day, and I remember watching it in my room just like this is ridiculous. And then Uncharted 3 did the same thing, just like they can't keep doing this. And they kept doing it because Last of Us, one of the best looking PS3 games, and then Uncharted 4, one of the best looking PS4 games. And now Part 2, best looking PS4 game still right now. So when it comes to graphics, they did a really good job. I love the look of the game. I love just the contrast of certain things in the beginning and how it uses the color later on in the game. You have Act 3 of the game, which I believe starts with the Santa Barbara stuff. So if I was to put the game in acts, Act 1 is, well, prologue, of course, is beginning to Joel's death. Act 1 is Seattle, day 1 to 3 with Ellie. Act 2 is Seattle, day 1 to 3 with Abby. Act 3 is the farm to Santa Barbara, and then epilogue. But in Act 3, when you're in the farm and you just have that super, super colorful area with like the sun going and the clouds, like it's such a foreign moment in that game because the entire game has looked so drab in contrast. So then you get to that moment, it's just like, ooh, like it looks really good and pops. But then, yeah, that contrast coming back later after the game's over, and then the area just looks, it has that Last of Us look to it. It just looks decrepit and old, and there's no color or life in there. And just like those uses of color, like Naughty Dog did a really fantastic job on that. Like that is a good looking game from start to finish. Just an animation and everything. But I knew going in it was gonna look good. And you know, I'm not a like graphics are king person. Like graphics like are the best thing in a game, but I will always call out when graphics look good in a game, and they did a tremendous job. So now moving on to gameplay, which is the part that really just pumped stuff up. Now, if I was looking at Last of Us Part 1, sorry, everything's reversed. If I'm looking at Part 1 and Part 2 here, gameplay, Part 2 wins. Part 2's gameplay is much better than Part 1. They are very similar in a lot of ways, but the new additions they did add and the new things they changed to this, the environment and the way you get around the world and all of that were really cool additions. Like I really liked with Seattle Day 1, you have that kind of open area where you can go to the main plot stuff to get the gas for the generator, but you could also go on these different little areas like checking in the bank to find the shotgun and find all these different things, or go to a different area to find supplies, and you get more characterization between Ellie and Dina. And I like those little moments here. I like the open like world aspect of that where you're kind of open. It felt very weird at first. Like there was almost a bit where I was kind of worried because I thought, ooh, it's got a map system. Is this going to be a thing where we're gonna be kind of having the entire game open, and I was almost worried for a bit. But then when it did go away and it went back to the more linear style, I was okay. I was happy at that point because I feel an entire game in that style maybe wouldn't work as well. I felt with Last of Us it works better in a more linear structure where you're kind of following along. But for that section, it was cool. I really dug that. I think the stuff that they did bring from part one, or that things that were in the DLC for Left Behind, were executed very well in here as well. Like one thing that they did mention in Left Behind that they wanted to include in the full game but couldn't was having in Left Behind like fireflies and infected in the same room coexisting and having them both interacting with each other. In the main game, they couldn't do that, but in Left Behind, they were able to add it. And you see that a bunch throughout part 2 as well, and I really liked the way it was done. It's like early on in Seattle day 1, you're in that like train yard area, and it's all red. You have the infected in one room, and you have the wolves coming in another room. And you can either fight the wolves and then have the infected go there. You can fight the infected and like the wolves, or you can just skip all of that and let them fight each other. And I liked all the moments in the game where that happened. It happened there. It happened when Ellie is going for Nora in the hospital, and then you have the soldiers coming in, but then you have the infected there. So then it becomes the thing of, do I kill the infected and then fight the wolves, or do I let the infected take them out? And I just loved that whole moment. I thought that was a really cool this gameplay concept, but just in the way you can handle that situation. Because when I was playing Seattle Day 1, playing that part in question, I had my cousin. We were doing a share play, and he was watching my gameplay. And one thing he remarked is that, well, when I played it, I didn't even do that. Like, I was fighting the wolves, and then the infected came in and took them out the rest of the way. But in my case, I fought one of the infected. I threw a brick to take their attention away towards the wolves, and that killed them. So then I was able to sneak past and get through the entire area. So stuff like that, where you're able to just completely change like how you approach gameplay things, like the stealth sections were good. And I felt they really improved on that. Like another moment it was really later in the game. This was Act 3 when you're in Santa Barbara and you're going for Abby. And you're in the compound of the Rattlers. I really liked the little thing where they had the infected tied up, and you can let them go, and they would start attacking them to get like your attention off, so you can sneak past them. Like that, I thought that was a really cool little thing there. Just like it made getting to that area easy, because honestly, that area was the hardest part of the entire game. Like getting past that area and sneaking is not easy. And I'm on moderate, like, which is a mode that definitely gives you a good amount of ammo and supplies. But if you try to go in that section and fight, it's not easy. I tried it the first time, and I I got smoked because they're coming from like all sides. There's probably a good 30 people in that area, and it's just a pain to get through. So definitely, like with the clickers there, just letting them go is like, okay, I have my distraction now. I can just beeline through, and it made getting through a lot easier. I think I only had to get like 10 people maybe, which isn't too bad in the string of things. And some of the new stuff they also added to, like the kind of the bigger focus on the melee combat with the dodging, and where dodging now is much more prevalent. Like in the original game, you know, when you're fighting the infected, you know, dodging wasn't like you could dodge, but it wasn't like that much. Now this game is like you gotta be on it on those dodging. Like those little boss fights where you're fighting the big buff dudes, or the big buff chick, and you gotta dodge. Like you better hope your dodge is on point, because they tear you up, and they juke you sometimes. Like they get you confused. Like when you're fighting Abby and you're fighting the chick with the hammer, it's like she goes for one swing. You're like, oh, I got her. I'm about to go punch, and she gets you with that boom, dead. Like it does so much damage. And I'm sure on Survivor, it's probably a one-hit kill. But you should already know going in. Like, if you're playing that game on Survivor, just know you're not going to have ammo. Like, I remember playing Grounded mode, and that mode doesn't joke around in the first game. It's pretty much, you know what? You have 4 bullets. That better last a good 2 hours because we ain't going to give you any more. And I, at the time of this recording, I have not played Last of Us Part 2 on the harder difficulty yet. I want to. When I get there, just know I ain't going to have ammo for 90 hours into that game. Just because how they do it. And honestly, this is a game you're going to need ammo. Now in Part 1, you could sneak past every single encounter for the most part. There are a few ones where you have to fight, and it's a forced game one. But I feel like in Part 2, there is way more where, like, I don't know how you sneak past it. And it's all because of those new infected types they added. So the new one where, like, they crumb out the wall, and the ones that are, like, sneaking on the floor, I hate those. Those are my least favorite enemy in the entire game. I hate them. Just because one of them got me in a jump scare, and I don't like that. And it wasn't even like one that the game did. Like, when the game did do a jump scare, it didn't get me. But I went into a building. I think it was Seattle day 2. And I did listen mode. I didn't see anybody. I'm like, okay, no one's in here. So then I'm just walking through, like, all fine. And then one of those things just comes out from behind, and I legit was like that. And I was like, I don't like that game just did that to me. Like, I'm mad now. I'm like, God dang it. And I just hate those things. Like, they're super sneaky, and like they just start charging you, and I lost so much ammo fighting them because there's certain moments where you're walking and they come out the wall, and it's like, well, there's no way to get past them. Like, I tried, and I feel like there's certain sections in the game that they force you to fight them. Maybe there isn't. Maybe I just didn't look up all the available methods, but there were a lot of times when I got to those parts where I had to fight them. So, I don't know. Maybe in the second playthrough I'll figure it out, and I might also watch some other people play. So maybe I will get my answer then there. And like the infected always, like that stuff was still good. Like the clickers, the improvement of the regular infected, which they got a huge upgrade compared to the original game where they were super easy to get. Like, now you actually had to really be careful because, like, they could hear you better, and you had to actually be slow and all this stuff, and like that stuff was cool. The other new addition that I wasn't too big on was the dog stuff. I'm a dog person. I'm like, but you know what? Those dogs had to go, though. It's like, I'm sorry, dogs, but they had to go. And that was the enemy type I actually really hated, too, because you really just could not stay in one spot. Like, my approach in the first game was, okay, I'm going to sneak slowly. I want to take my time. Those dogs ruined it, because the second you start getting in a comfortable spot, the dogs start sniffing like, you got something, boy? And then they're already on my direction. And it's like, you better have a brick. You better have a brick or a bottle. If you don't, you're done. Either you have to kill the dog or you got to kill the dude. And those sections with the dogs were painful. Like that one, I believe it's a day 2 of, I believe it's day 2 of Seattle. It's one when you meet up with Jesse, when Jesse sneaks up on you. That section beforehand when you're running away from the wolves, like that part when you have to like go after like 3 dogs and like all these wolves, that part is ridiculously hard to sneak by. Like I didn't do it. Like I snuck halfway and I just ran because like, nah, I'm not fighting all these people with these like 8 dogs and these 20 people with good weapons. I'm not trying to waste my ammo. And I was just like I hate these dogs. Like I hate dogs. Like, well, I shouldn't have said that. That's actually like a bad screen cap. Someone is gonna like copy that and be like, "Look what GWC said. I hate dogs." Oh boy, there are a few smaller things that I kind of glanced over, but I do need to bring up. And it's also with the newer edition, like the infected we have with the wolves which take the place of fireflies, we have another type of human enemy type that you face throughout the game, which is the scars, which honestly they're just as bad as those little sneaking infected I was talking about earlier, because like the way they'll just be like the whistling, you just hear that, and like they are on you. Like they do not give you a second to breathe. They get to you. Like that part when you're Abby and you have to like get away from them, like and it's like a room full of them. Like that part's actually kind of hard. There's a lot of them there, and I ended up having to run away. It was kind of like the Ellie situation in day 2, where I was just like, nope, I'm just running away. But they were a cool little enemy type, especially once they got to like the heavy type too. When you started seeing like the heavy enemies, and like you can't take them out just as quickly because like they have like the heavier weapons. Like that stuff was cool. I liked that they added at least different types for the regular enemies, so it's not always getting stale, and kind of added some fresh stuff there too. And of course, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention the guitar mechanic in the game. And it's something, I guess before release, they were really talking up and saying like it's a really important part of Ellie's story, which, you know, it is in the end.
Promise me that you won't laugh.
I won't laugh. I won't.
I'm trusting you.
But I feel like the guitar mechanic didn't really play that much into the game. Like you have the little tutorial in the beginning, and it shows you can like you play with the touch control, and then when you get to the theater in Seattle every day, you can sit by it and like just mess around with it. And I never figured out, it's like, is there like stuff I'm supposed to do, or is it just there to play the chords? Like for what it was pretty like nifty. I did it a little bit, but I never really got like the full extent of kind of what purpose it served. Like maybe there's more stuff to it, but I was always just like, the first day I did it, I was like just messing around. Then day two I did it again. Day 3, I think I was just like, nah, let me just run up those stairs. I'm good on that. But that was one of those mechanics where I was just like, it's there, but it wasn't anything that like left me like, man, that guitar mechanic, yo. But it's okay for what it is. And before I finish the gameplay part, I do have to mention this because this is something that I feel not a lot of people have been mentioning about this game, but I have to give Naughty Dog the props for this, because this was actually really cool. And that is the accessibility features in this game. When I first booted up the game and I was looking through the options like I always do, and I went down to accessibility, I didn't realize how deep it went in this game. They really listened. Like, it is so expansive and just everything in terms of audio, visual, contrast, you're colorblind, if you need audio cues and different things. Like, it's so good to see. And the reason, like, now of late I've been kind of really big onto that just is I remember when I went to PSX 2017, there was a booth I went to. I cannot for the life of me remember the name. But at the booth, they had a demo of Uncharted 4. And it was pretty much to show what it's like if you had some type of disability. And you put on these goggles, and it really made your vision, like, really fuzzy, and it was, like, hard to see. And they said, okay, play the game. I was playing it. I was shooting. I'm usually really good at Uncharted. And I missed every single shot and died. So then they said, okay, let me restart this. Let me put auto aim on. They put auto aim on, and I got to this section with no issues. And that was the point where it clicked on me why games have auto aim. Because for the longest time, for me, when I saw auto aim in video games, I was just like, oh, that's for beginners. That's for people who aren't good. And I was like, oh, it's for people with no skill. And after kind of hearing that and talking to that person there, it really let me kind of realize, like, auto aim is really there for accessibility purposes. And maybe not for certain games, maybe it is there for an ease of shooting, but it's there for a lot of accessibility reasons. And I think having that stuff in games for people who need it, who can't get through the game in regular ways, or maybe the controller method isn't as easy to do, like that stuff's great. And I'm always going to be for that when games having like these deep accessibility features. And honestly, of any game I've seen, Last of Us Part 2's is really good. And I wish more people were talking about that, because like, say what you will about the story and all that, but you got to at least give Naughty Dog props for this, because this was really cool, and I was actually happy to see that. So like, props to you, Naughty Dog, on that. Like that was really cool. Before I finish, there were a few things I did forget to mention, and it was the new addition of the prone system, where now you can kind of fully go prone. And it's not really like anything too like mind blowing, like whoa, you can go prone. But it definitely was a cool little addition, at least in terms of stealth and getting through areas. You also have swimming now too, with having to hold your breath and getting through that. And I thought at first like the swimming was going to be a gimmick and you weren't going to use it a lot, but I did appreciate that near the end of the game, swimming actually became like a legit mechanic, where now you're using the swimming to like sneak past enemies and like kind of to sneak under them to get them. And it was pretty cool. I thought that mechanic was going to be a waste, but it actually it actually worked out pretty well. So yeah, with that's pretty much the gameplay things I have to say about that. If you enjoyed the gameplay of Part 1, Part 2's is still the same, just expanded on a whole different level, and you know, it's still just as good. The gunplay was fun. The stealth parts were great, and I just liked exploring the world and seeing all the stuff around it, and also just exploring and like finding all these different puzzles. So now with all of that out of the way, it's time to talk about the big one, the story of Last of Us Part 2. This is the thing right here that is the most controversial with the game. People may love the gameplay, they may love everything else with this game, but the story is where everything grinds to halt for them. Now, this story, I can see why it's very controversial, because it does a lot of things that to some people are really going to be very, very like, it's going to drive at them in a way, and they might not like the way it's executed. Now, before I go on, I have to mention this, because this moment, honestly, it's a moment that seems out of character, and it's something that has bothered me since I played the game. So it's in the beginning of the game. Joel and Tommy and Abby, they're running away from the infected. They go inside the mansion, and then Tommy's talking to somebody, I think like Nora or Mel, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I think we got an outpost, a few blocks now. You should come down and get some supplies." And it's like, "What's your name?" "Tommy. This is my brother." And then Joel's like, "Joel,
you two live nearby?"
We do. A few hours down the hill. Y'all should come back with us, restock before you head out.
Appreciate it. I'm Mel, by the way.
Tommy, this is my brother.
Joe.
I'm like, is it just me, or is that moment really stupid? Why, after everything Joel and Tommy have been through, are they just like to these random strangers they don't know? Yeah, here's our names. We have a town outpost. Like, they're too friendly, and like their guard is off. I feel Last of Us 1 Joel would have been like, something's up. Like, I do not trust a single person here. Like, no. I wouldn't have said the name. He would have come up with... I feel like the way they wrote that, I wasn't a fan of. Because I was just like, boy, Joel and Tommy kind of come up like idiots there. Like, did they really think, like, yeah, let's say our name? It's like, Joel, you forgot you're a wanted man? You forgot you let the world down? And he's just like, Joel. And Tommy called him out too. Like, yeah, it's Tom is my brother. Like, thanks. Thanks a lot, Tommy. Left me out in the open now. But that moment bothered me. I was just like, man, they really just told their names to these complete strangers. And of course, the thing is they wouldn't have known that they were after them. But it's like, you've already seen like how that world is and how like two-sided people are. So why are you like so open to them? You just met them. In that moment, like I just wasn't feeling that one in particular. I found it funny, like looking back. But I was just like, come on, Joel. I'm not saying he deserved to die for being that stupid, but I was just like, that definitely wasn't that wasn't a smart decision on his part. Like he should have just said like Jim Milton or something else, and he would have been fine. He probably would have still been alive. But it is what it is. So, of the big section of in particular is that at the middle point in the game, this is after you're in Seattle day 3, and after you kill pretty much all of Abby's gang, after her entire gang is slaughtered. Day 4 technically is what it would be. Jesse dies, and Abby has Ellie at gunpoint, and now you play as Abby for 3 days. So pretty much you play as her for 10 hours. And I was super. Here's my reaction to who happened. So Jesse's dead. I'm shocked. I'm like, no. I'm like, no, they killed my favorite character. I was like, I'm actually kind of digging Jesse. He's a pretty cool character. And then it's like, oh, he's dead. Tommy's about to die. No, like Tommy gets shot, and now I'm just like there you go, great. Tommy's dead now, which I thought I gotta mention that too. Some things about that I'm kind of surprised about, but no, Tommy's shot at. Abby's got the gun point blank at Ellie. Then it hard cuts, boom, Abby, and you're playing as her. I didn't want to play as her. I'll be honest, I did not want to play as Abby. I was like, I don't want to play as her. I just want to get back to Ellie. I want to see where this is gonna go. They had me on the ropes. They were like, they got me hooked. I want to see where it's gonna be let off. So then you're playing through Abby, and then you start seeing some stuff. It's like okay, we're going back to the place, and you see that hospital from the first game, and you realize, wait, Abby's a Firefly. But then the game goes even further, where it's like, Abby is not just a Firefly. Her father is the doctor that was doing surgery on Ellie that Joel killed, and who was the last surgeon that could have done the operation to save humanity. And now it recontextualizes every single thing. And now you're like, okay, now I can see why Joel died. Am I like, oh, Joel deserved it? I'm like, no. Am I surprised? No. I'm not surprised at all. Like before I got to that point, I was having a discussion with my cousin about that, because we were just like, I don't know what Joel did, but it had to be something that like drove them to do this. And we were just like, well, they do mention in part 1, Joel at least mentions that like before, when he was with the Fireflies and with Tommy, and that he did a lot of things that he regrets, and a lot of different things. He probably screwed a lot of people over in his time. And I was like, it's probably he screwed somebody over, or it was this and that. And I was like, oh no, he did screw somebody over, the entire world for the selfish act. And it's one of those moments, like thinking back then, it's like, I was like, did Joel do the right thing? Like as a player, I'm like, he did, giving Ellie like the life to continue on after that, because there still is that thing of even if like the cure is made, or if there even is a chance of it, it's like there's that chance of, okay, the cure doesn't happen, so they kill Ellie for nothing, and the world's still stuck with the infection and everything else. Then there's the second thing of, well, even with all of that, there's probably going to be some kind of big debate about who gets the vaccine. And even with that, the world probably won't even return to normal, even with that. So it's a lot of big things. That was my thing going in, was just like, maybe it wouldn't really bring things to like the kind of normalcy that they were expecting. But you definitely at that point can realize, okay, now you see Abby has her revenge mission. You kind of get that alluded throughout Seattle Day 1 a lot, because they mentioned that entire thing with going to get Joel and if they regret it and all this different things. And even in Day 1, like, I saw what they were doing. They were kind of trying to show a different side of the coin with there. And I do know why they were doing it, just to get the different perspective, because from the entire first game, we see everything from the perspective of Joel and Ellie. We don't see any other side in that game. We don't see the Fireflies. We don't see anything else. So we're just seeing what they are seeing and what they are going through. And even through part 2 in the beginning, the first 3 days of the game, like, at that point, you are despising the wolves. You're killing hundreds of them. You're going through them like gutter balls. And you're only seeing it, like, again, through the lens of Ellie, Dina, and that's all you have your mind on at that point. It's just revenge. And then you hit that point in Act 2 with Abby, where now you're getting to see their side of it, where now they're going up against the cult, and you're seeing their kind of life in that, and you're seeing kind of these different parallels between Abby and Ellie and, like, their revenge and their different kind of characters in that. Now it didn't work for me at first. I was just like, I see what they're doing. You see they got the little school and saying, like, oh, see, the wolves aren't that bad. You know, see, they have the houses, they got a community. See, this guy, who spit on Joel, see, he's got a father, and he's got this, he's got that. Like, I saw what they were doing there. And I understand, like, the choice of that, just to be like, well, let's show you this perspective. And that's really where people had an issue. Like, they did not want to play as Abby. Like, after playing as the murder of the character, like, someone who murdered the favorite character of the first game, like, that's going to be a tough sell for a lot of people. And it was a tough sell for me. And honestly, I don't know what point it was. It might have been, like, the end point of, like, Seattle Day 1 or Day 2 as Abby, where I was kind of coming along to. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of digging this part of the game. I'm kind of liking the Abby parts of the game. And just the characterization of her, kind of, like, fleshing her more out. And kind of what I got from it, and it's probably not what everybody's going to get from the game, and, like, their thoughts on, like, what they kind of took for it. Or maybe, actually, I'll save that for the end. I'll save that point right there when I get to the end of the game, or get to the end of the thing. But I saw what they were doing there. And kind of having the parallels of, like, what Ellie did, and you're seeing characters that you saw throughout Day 1 with Ellie. You're now seeing them have more of character interactions with Abby, like the girl who had the PS Vita, which, you know what, I got to give big ups that Sony is still showing a Vita in 2020. I'm like, hey, they still remember that system. If only they didn't horribly ruin it with those god dang expensive memory cards. We could have still had Vitas now. But I digress. Like, you see her, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, it's her. Right before she gets her throat slashed. Or, oh hey, it's that guy. Oh, he dies. Oh hey, it's Nora. Oh wait, she dies too. Oh wait, they all die. Also, actually, there is one other twist I forgot to mention. Because Day 3, when you get to the aquarium, and it's like, okay, you kill the dog, and you're just like, oh, I didn't want to kill him. Then you kill Mel. Then you kill Owen. Then you realize, oh wait, Mel's pregnant. And then it takes you, boom, Seattle Day 1. When it goes to that part, and now you're seeing Mel again. Now you see Owen. Now you're kind of feeling bad. You're like, damn, Ellie really just tore these people up. And like 20 minutes after you kill that dog, there you go, patting it on the head. It's just like, hurts. It hurts. And you're just like, dang. Like, I see what they get. Like, there was a joke I did hear. Like, I did see that on Twitter. Like, the game will make you feel bad for what you did. I didn't feel bad. I was just like, dang. Ellie really tore them up. And So then just going through Abby's stuff in the story and seeing Isaac and just how the wolves act, like for me, like you kind of can like feel with Abby. The one thing I will say that I maybe I just have to play the game more and maybe I'll be able to figure it out more. The one thing I wasn't, I guess, feeling, or I felt maybe came on like too fast, was when Abby gets captured by the cult and they're in the woods hanging her, and then there you meet Yara and Lev, and then she goes with them, and then she really starts helping them. She takes them to like the little house. She goes over to the aquarium to get supplies, and she comes back and brings them over. And that, like, the one thing I think I felt maybe like it went too quick was that I felt like Abby's change with that was very sudden. Like they saved her life, and then almost like a dime, it was like boom. Now she's kind of slowly coming around to them. And I did like that little dynamic of them, like especially with like Abby and Lev. Like that dynamic was really good. And I liked the little conversations they had, and kind of seeing Abby maybe come to terms with understanding like maybe why Lev does that, and Lev kind of understanding maybe why the wolves are doing what they do, and so on and so forth. I just felt it kind of went too fast. Like it felt like like a snap, and it's like boom, Abby's already like on, like supporting them, and it kind of felt out of character because Abby's such a brutal character and just murders everybody and all this, and like no emotion. But then now she's kind of like, oh well, now I'm going to help the scars, and I'm gonna do this and that. But like I said, maybe it's just something that I missed in playing, or maybe just I haven't played it enough or looked into the things kind of at that section of the game more. But I don't know, I'll figure it out. That section of the game was cool. I liked that. I liked like the stealth elements, like a little action. And honestly, the thing I was more mad about is like, man, they gave Abby way better weapons than Ellie. Like Abby has like the little semi-auto. She has the crossbow, which was way better than the bow. She has the better handgun. She has like God, like why'd you give Abby the better stuff? That's what I was more mad about. I was like, dang, it kind of sucks. Like she gets the better weapons, and it kind of sucks when I got to Ellie again for the Santa Barbara section. I started missing the weapons from the Abby part. I was like, oh God, I got to use this weapon again. It's like it's not as good. Give me the semi-auto. Like I was tearing people up with that. Especially once I got like the auto rounds on there. Woo, people were going. And then like day 3, just wild, just when you get to like the sniper battle, and then the main dude of Abby's crew, where I was actually like, this dude's kind of all right. I kind of like that guy. I think like Manuel, I forgot his name. I'll put it up right here. But that dude, I liked that dude. I was kind of like, it's kind of sad to see, but you know what? You kind of deserved it though. Like I don't remember. I remember what you did to Joel, but that part, and then the entire section on the Scars Island from start to finish, that section was amazing. From like the stealth parts in there to the switch when Isaac is killed, to when you're fighting wolves and you're having to do the sneaking in areas like underwater, to the entire horseback section with like the crazy fire effects and fighting people on the flaming buildings and the big fight there. Like that whole section is just nuts. To then getting back to realizing that Mel is dead, Owen is dead, the dog is dead, heading back to then Ellie meeting up, and then continuing on the story. That whole section, I was like, this game is crazy. And in that whole fight there too, when you're with Abby and you're fighting against Ellie, I kind of like, when I was looking back through the game, and I was kind of thinking of it also just comparing it to part 1. Part 1 and part 2 have a lot of similarities in certain things. The that fight in particular with Abby and Ellie when you're inside the theater, it reminded me a lot of the fight in part 1 when Ellie's going up against David. Like, very similar, where you have to sneak around, you have to kind of get behind them, and so on and so forth. And even some of the story beats too, where you kind of have Tess die in the beginning, and that really is what accelerates the plot there. Like, okay, this was my job, now you have to take it on and finish it. And then you have Ellie and Dina, where Dina kind of has a little bit of the Tess role, where now, rather than the duo, it's now just Ellie going alone. Which I do have to comment on that. I actually really enjoyed Dina as a character in the game. I thought Seattle Day 1, I really enjoyed a lot just because it was very lax for the most part. And I liked kind of the dynamic between Ellie and Dina and the alternate conversations you can have with them talking about just different parts of the town and all these different things. But as much as I like her character, she ain't bright. she is not bright. Because the second that plot twist comes that she's pregnant, I'm just like, this girl's dumb. She really went on a cross-country trip, a revenge mission, while pregnant. I was like, Dina is an idiot. Dumb Dina. See, look, took my camera out. But it was just one of those moments where I was just like, dang, like, that's so stupid. I was like, this character is not is not bright. But despite that, I was I really liked their chemistry throughout the game and like the little moments they did have. And at that point, like then Dina kind of stayed at the hotel, and then it was just the Ellie part, which that part was cool too. Day 2 was cool. A lot of the crazy kind of sequences like the one I talked about earlier with the dog. And then day 3, of course, is wild when Jesse and then going up to the aquarium and then meeting back up with Tommy. Which, now I'll mention that. How is Tommy alive? I honestly, there's 2 points in this game I thought Tommy died. When Joel died, when Joel died and Tommy walked in the door and was talking to Ellie, for one moment I thought, is this a flashback? Is this like the night before? I didn't realize Tommy was alive. I thought he was dead. Because the way they beat him up, I was like, oh, he's dead. But no, Tommy lived. And when Abby shot Tommy, I thought they killed him. They killed Tommy right now. Now I'm really mad. But then you get to the end of the game, when you get to that point on the farm, and for another time I thought, is this like a dream? And it's crazy. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. Hopefully I'm not. I felt for the entire part of the farm chapter, I was just thinking, this is too good to be true. Just the way like the colors were like super bright, I thought for a moment this was a dream. I thought Ellie died in Seattle and this was like her last vision, like a what could have been moment. Because then when Tommy was there, I was like, wait, Tommy, like this has to be a dream. But then I see the eye and he's talking about like after the Seattle trip, I was like, how is this dude alive? Like, how did Tommy live? This dude got shot in the head, in the eye, got beat up, and somehow miraculously lived. Like, how did this dude get shot in the eye and manage to get back to Seattle? Like, how did Dina and Ellie get back to Seattle? That's where I'm more shocked. It's like they were destroyed in that fight. Abby tore them up, and they somehow managed to get back. Like, Ellie looked the most destroyed in the entire game. Well, except until Santa Barbara, because she was looking rough at that point in the game. And that part of the game was also really good. Was really cool too. Kind of like with Abby and Lev kind of now just doing their own thing, continuing on what Owen was talking about, the Fireflies, to running into the Rattlers and the infamous punch meme, which now that I have the context for, now it's funny, because before on a Discord server I kept seeing that image. I'm like, what is that from? And then they said Last of Us 2. I was like, nope, let me not see it. Let me beat the game. And then when that scene actually happened, I was like, hey, you know what? It's like, that's the scene you're talking about. And it was pretty funny. It was kind of funny. I was like, oh wait, damn, that dude really tore Lev up right. That was a mean punch. Hit Lev with that 1-2 KO. But then you have like the Ellie rescue mission, if you will, getting through the compound and that whole section, and Ellie on the revenge and the whole. And I guess I kind of also glanced through that farm part. Tommy really ruined things. Tommy should never have come to the farm. Had Tommy not come to the farm and been like, Ellie, you need to stop everything you're doing and go kill Abby. I can't do it, so you go do it. Ellie would have still had a happy ending. Like, well, maybe happy because she still had PTSD from Joel's death and still was not letting it go. And leading to that point, getting to the end of the game, and the big decision that really is the head turner for a lot of people is that Ellie lets Abby go. Ellie goes through everything in the game, and she does not kill Abby. And for a good minute, I really did not like the decision at all. I thought Ellie should have killed Abby. And then after thinking on it for a bit, I kind of realized at that point, Ellie kind of turned into Abby for a bit. Because at that point, the first thing she did when she went up to go fight Abby, she put the knife right to Lev's throat, said, if you don't fight me, I'm killing Lev. I'm killing him. And then they fight, and she's choking Abby. She's about to kill him. She's about to kill her. And then she gets that flashback to Joel. And then she just realizes, I think at that moment, what I kind of take from it is that killing Abby is not going to bring Joel back. And it's not going to even bring any kind of, I don't know, maybe like, not happiness, but it's not going to bring any closure to it because she never had closure with Joel. Because when you see that last cutscene, even though at that point they kind of got more on a talking point, she never had full closure with him. And she never is going to have closure in that moment. So my takeaway was that killing Abby isn't going to give her that closure. And so she let her go. And even at that point, Abby was already broken. Like, honestly, Ellie and Abby are the same characters. Like, there's no real heroes in the game. And nobody really has a happy ending. That's the thing, the big takeaway is there is no happy ending in this game. Like, the revenge, honestly, was not worth it. Because Jesse's dead. Tommy has no eye. Dina is now just gone. Like, Dina leaves Ellie. Ellie has no one. Like, her biggest worry in the beginning of the game and all that is being alone. Like, she does not want to be alone anymore. And now at the end of the game, that's exactly what she is. She has nobody. Because now her relationship with Tommy is soured. Dina left her. And their child. She doesn't have Joel. She has pretty much nothing. Like my takeaway kind of the ending, at least with her leaving the guitar, since now she has like no fingers to even play, is that leaving that guitar pretty much means that she leaves Joel behind. Like, she's leaving that part of her life and her past away. That's what I took away from it. There's probably a lot of different things. And there's still a part of me that's just like, man, should she have killed Abby? But I don't know. It's one of those things I'm probably going to still be thinking about for a good minute, because it probably still is going to change. Honestly, playing the game again might give me a different perspective and like whole more things to talk about, since there's a lot of things I didn't bring up. Like, I can honestly be here for another hour or two, but I feel like I need somebody else here to kind of bounce ideas off of different things. So I don't know, if I do another discussion, it might be with somebody else. But I just wanted to cover kind of the main points of the game. There's probably a lot of other things I didn't mention. Like the little like flashbacks and different things, like with Ellie, like her flashbacks were like her PTSD flashback was like in Joel's death, and Abby's was her father's death, which they cut to that numerous times throughout the game. Like, though, like I said, those characters are both broken. They both have just things that were left undone, and they never really get that kind of fulfillment in it. Like I feel like, because even after Abby kills Joel, she's still having those flashbacks. So it shows right there she never got closure. Even with killing Joel, she's still never getting her father back, and she still has that recurring nightmare there. And the same thing is going to apply to Ellie. If she kills Abby, she's still probably going to have the same PTSD that she had about Joel's death, and it's not going to go anywhere. And it's just going to be, and I think that's kind of the point I was driving, is just that killing Abby is still everything's going to be exactly the same. So whether she killed Abby, the ending of the game would have been exactly the same. Ellie still would have no body. She would still be all alone. Joel would still be dead. So if that's the thing that Naughty Dog did with the game, then I commend them for it, because that actually is honestly a pretty cool like take on it. But like I said, I don't know, and I probably won't know in that with different things. So this video is very long. My throat is very dry. I've been talking for like an hour at this point now. It's been a good minute. But I think I'll drop there. Overall, I really enjoyed Last of Us Part 2. I thought it was a great game. It lived up to my expectations to it. Now, if I was to compare it to Part 1, now, if I put them side by side, comparing everything inside of them, it's tough to say, because there are things about Part 2 that are better than 1. But there are things in Part 1 that work better. Like I will say, in terms of a cohesive story from start to finish, Part 1 story is much tighter. I think the character interactions and motives and everything in Part 1 is much tighter. I feel it's a better story. But the gameplay and everything in Part 2 is better. But I feel like I will still give the edge to Part 1 in a way. Because I feel like even without like the edge in gameplay in that, Part 1 is as a whole package is much more condensed. There's a lot more to 2, but I feel like it's got way more stuff that's like deeper in the game. Like 1 is easier to understand on, and looking at it in like a 3-act structure, it's very easy, and it's like boom, boom, boom. This makes sense. You understand the character perspectives of what they're doing. Part 2, it's way more like you have to kind of think a bit, and it's got more divisive stuff in it. Maybe not everyone's going to like. So, I don't know. Part 1 probably for me, but you know what? Part 2, I still really enjoyed it. I will still say, if you have played Part 1 and enjoyed it, I still recommend Part 2. Despite what everybody is saying, I would still say to give Part 2 a try. Like, try it for yourself. Even if you are not a fan of like where the story goes, I will still say give it a try. Because I feel, for me personally, I like to give a game a fair shot and will at least want to try it on my own. Because there have been a lot of times where I've let a big viewer or a big kind of opinion of a certain thing kind of stop me from either playing a game or watching a movie or a certain thing, and then listening to it, watching it myself or playing it, I end up either really enjoying it. So for most things, I will try to at least give it a try. So like I said, like, yeah, just like give it a play. If not, if a friend has it, let them share play a little bit of it. At least to play a little bit of the game. So I do recommend it. But like I said, I understand that the story is not going to be for everybody. And I'm sure in this video, there are going to be people who are going to be very against my opinions on the story. But I know going in, this game is created a very toxic discussion on a lot of different things. I didn't want to bring it up, but I guess I'll bring it up at the end. There's obviously been the really disgusting comments that were made against Laura Bailey, who was the actress for Abby, that are absolutely disgusting, and like that is ridiculous that people are getting that upset over the character in the game. Like, she didn't write the character. She acted the character, and she did a great job. The voice acting for Abby was great, and the acting as a whole, like she did a really good job in it. I liked there. Do I like the characters Abby? Not. I don't like the choices Abby made, but as a character in the game, it was interesting to see, like what her like role in it. Like I liked seeing that, and that other side of the coin. But the people got to the point of saying death threats and all that. Like it's just ridiculous. But I'm gonna end it there. If I was to give this game a numerical score, so Last of Us Part 1 is a 10 for me. I gave that game a 10 for me. Just does it mean it's perfect? No, but just as a whole experience, I loved every single thing about it. This game, I would say right now, is about an 8. 8 for me. Still, really good game. Like 8 means the game was great. But there's just certain small things, like some with the story and different things that I probably would that cut it back to an 8. But either way, it's all good. So I'm going to call it here. Thank you very much for watching, or if you were listening along. Hopefully I can do some more of this in the future again. But I feel like it's been a bit since there's been a game where I really had to like talk about the story like this. But who knows? There might be some other games I might do another discussion topic like it. So until next time, I'm John, GWC. And I guess that was the last of me. Ugh. Nah. I just... That was as bad as... God dang, I ruined this whole video. God dang.